Hello and welcome to the history of Sonic the Hedgehog action figures. I'm your host, Hansel the Hobo, and today I'm going to be telling you all about the history of this franchise's action figures. As of right now, it is 2024, and I haven't seen an updated review of these figures in quite some time, so I took it upon myself to do so. In this video, I'm going to dive into the main brands that have gotten the Sonic the Hedgehog license over the years. Some good, some outstanding, some bad, whatever the hell this is. Just overall dive deep into the history of these action figures. Also, huge shout out to the Schniz Knight and Speed Supersonic. They're the reason why I got the idea to make this video. And anyways, let's not waste any more time and get into the first brand. And first up on the list of brands is Resaurus, starting all the way back in 1999 with their first line of figures coinciding with Sonic Adventure 1 for the Sega Dreamcast. Sonic was changing a lot during the 90s, going from his chunky, short proportions in the early games to a sleek, cool, attitude-filled design in the latest games at the time. And with it, Resaurus made an amazing toy line to go with it, starting with the first wave having a total of 7 figures. 2 Sonics, Tails, Knuckles, Amy, Big the Cat, and E102 Gamma. And I have to say, these figures look great for what they were going for. They were obviously basing them from the promo art, and they do that perfectly. I mean, just look at Sonic. You can get him into the exact pose from the box art, and he looks fantastic. I mean, sure, he's outdated nowadays, with the funky quills and the large eyes and the hot dog shoes, but I still think that he's really fantastic, and so are most of the other figures in this line. Resaurus made a few more random figures here and there, like the talking figures and the really large ones, but nothing really too substantial. Most of these figures are pretty expensive nowadays, ranging from $80 to $130 at a box, and don't even get me started on the end box prices. I think that's mainly because they're very sought after nowadays due to them being the only real figures that capture the adventure style. Of course, unless you count the Joyride Bendy figures. And another factor is that most of these toy partners had the license for quite a few years, but Resaurus only had it for 2 or 3 because they went out of business. It's a real shame because they could have made an SA2 line, heck, maybe a Sonic X line, but with that coming to a close, that brings us to our next toy line.
Whew! Feeling good!
Oh boy, where do I begin on Toy Island? Toy Island started making figures in the early 2000s near the end of Resaurus' run on the franchise, but in my opinion, these figures were terrible downgrades. I mean, just look at this guy. Ugh, his chunky body, terrible articulation, and fat face make him look god-awful. I mean, sure, these are much sturdier and made for kids playing with them, but I mean, sheesh man, Tails needs to do some sit-ups. Anyways, these figures started as a Sonic Adventure toy line, but soon evolved into a Sonic X toy line. The first wave of these figures had Sonic, Tails, Knuckles, Big, and Eggman, and were just a reissue of the ones they made for the Sonic Adventure, but with less accessories. They stayed like this for a while until they made new sculpts for the figures and a Build-A-Figure wave consisting of 2 Sonics, Tails, Knuckles, Amy, and Shadow. And if you collected all of them, you can get a GBX robot thing that was never used in the show, but hey, at least we got way better sculpts. Sonic looks much better, although he's pre-posed, and I mean look at Tails! Tails and Knuckles as well, they look 10 times better. Just look at the old ones compared to the new. Tails came back with Glow Up of the Century, but all it changed once they made super posers. With over 25 points of articulation, these figures were amazing. Leagues better than their previously made figures. But all good things have to come to a close, and with that we get into the next toy company, which is arguably the most popular and probably the one that you've been waiting for. Jazwares started in 2008 with their first figure being a Sonic the Hedgehog figure, and for their first figure, he looks great. Later, they were allowed to re-release the super poses, but with better paint and plastic, and for that time, people said that these were the definitive Sonic figures, being used in stop motions and on action figure shelves all throughout that year. But in 2009, everything changed with the Sonic the Hedgehog 3-inch figure line, starting with Sonic, which I actually have to review, and I will say, he's my favorite Sonic I have. Just look at him. He looks exactly like how he did in Unleashed. He has 14 points of articulation and stands just about 3.5 inches tall. And this time we actually got other characters besides the main three and Eggman. We got Blaze, Jet the Hawk, Vector, Espio, Silver, and so many more figures. I'm so happy for that. These figures were used in a lot of stop motions over the years.
For Sonic wins!
Stakes are as high as this. Sonic has always been able to pull through. No matter the odds.
For a long time, the Jazwares 3-inch line was the definitive Sonic toy line. I mean, sure, we had 5-inch and 10-inch lines from them, but they didn't really stick as well as the 3-inch line did. I would go over all the waves, but there's too many figures to cover in one video. But as many goods there are to this line, I must talk about the cons. And that mainly being them being pretty fragile and breaking. I have a Knuckles that crumbled right after I got him. Poor guy, just look at him.
Oh no! Oh no!
And I also have to mention the quality control being atrocious at that time. For example, this Silver's leg being on completely wrong in the Sonic's paint. Oh, and we can't forget our old pal Espio over here.
What the fuck?
Overall, this Sonic toy line was amazing, but their time with the Sonic license back in 2013, as it was coming to a close, all QC went out the window. They didn't care what got put on shelves. Just look at this.
Oh no!
Before Christmas this year?
You like to be filled!
And sadly, soon enough, Jazwares stopped making action figures. And it would be a sad few more years for Sonic fans, because we wouldn't get action figures of any Sonic characters for a long, long time. Until...
Now I'll show you!
Here we are. Imagine it's late 2014 and you have been starved of Sonic action figures for a few years by this point. Well, the wait was over. Sega announced that they were rebooting the Sonic series with a new TV show and games under the name Sonic Boom, and were more importantly announcing that Tomy was the new Sonic toy partner. Tomy would start making figures of Sonic Boom, creating quite a few characters and toys for the franchise, and those figures are somewhat to be desired, as we are just coming off the amazing Jazwares line, and these figures only had 5 points of articulation, and sculpts were somewhat lacking. But you can't be too mad, right? At least we have Sonic toys on the shelves again. But there's a problem. At this time, Sonic Boom was a complete flop. The game Sonic Boom Rise of Lyric having one of the worst ratings in Sonic history, nobody wanted Boom figures. We wanted actual Sonic figures. And soon, for the 25th anniversary, they would release classic Sonic figures, and they looked great, and the articulation was pretty okay too. They released multiple variants of these classic figures, some questionable, but we didn't have modern Sonic figures until 2017. With the release of Sonic Forces came actual modern Sonic figures, and they look pretty good. But sadly we're back to 5 points of articulation, and still don't compare to the Jazwares versions. The big three look pretty good, except Tails, which looks like a Steve Urkel wannabe. Like, come on, why does Tails always get the short end of the stick? I'm talking to you, Toy Island. But Tomy kept re-releasing the same figures for a few years, and kept promising figures to never come out. So Sega cut ties with Tomy in 2019. Everyone was hoping that we would get a new toy partner quick, and Sega wasted no time to find a new toy partner, because just a few months later in late 2019, Sega announced that Jakks Pacific would be getting the toy license for Sonic. Jakks Pacific had a slightly rocky start because they started with the weird bendy figures in early 2020, but they stepped up their game later by making the articulated Sonic toy line. At 4 inches tall, these were a bit taller than the Jazwares line, and man are they great. They were leagues better than the stuff Tomy put out, and were the first figures to make people question whether Jazwares was the best Sonic toy line. Jakks made everything from 4-inch, 2.5-inch playsets, you name it, they've probably made it. These figures each are, like I said, 4 inches tall and have 11 points of articulation, Slightly less than Jazwares, but it's fine for what they are, being only $10 and in pretty much every Target and Walmart nowadays. It's pretty crazy to think that they've been around for only 4.5 years, and they already have a bigger list of characters than Jazwares. There isn't much to go on for this line so far, as Jakks still has the license, constantly making new figures for this line. They just announced some amazing looking movie figures with the best articulation since the Superposers. And with that being said, I think Jakks Pacific is going to hopefully have the Sonic license for many more years to come, because I cannot wait to see what they're going to put out next. And would you look at that? You made it to the end of the video. Thank you all so much for watching. Let me know if you'd like to see more videos like this in the future. Also, if you could like and subscribe, that would be greatly appreciated. I spent a lot of time on this video and I really hope you all enjoyed it as much as I did. Thank you. This is your host Hansel the Hobo, signing off.